A big-name actor demanded a bigger trailer than Clint Eastwood on Clint's own production. When he showed up drunk the next day, Clint's response became legendary in Hollywood. It was June 1985, on the set of Pale Rider in the rugged mountains of Idaho's Sawtooth Range. Clint Eastwood was directing, producing, and starring in what would become one of his most successful westerns. The production was already complex: high-altitude location shooting, elaborate sets, dangerous horsework, unpredictable mountain weather, and a tight schedule that left absolutely no room for delays or unprofessional behavior. The film required a strong supporting cast, and Clint had agreed to work with an actor we'll call Marcus Brennan. Brennan was a well-known name in Hollywood, coming off 2 successful films and carrying the kind of box office recognition that could help market a Western to younger audiences who might not automatically turn out for the genre anymore. But Brennan came with a reputation that preceded him throughout the industry. He was known in Hollywood as difficult, demanding, temperamental, and convinced that his recent box office success meant he deserved special treatment on every production. His agent had warned Clint's producers that Brennan had specific requirements for any project he joined. Clint, who had built his entire production company Malpazzo on the principle of efficiency and respect for crew, was skeptical. But the studio was pushing for a recognizable co-star, and Brennan's agent promised he would be professional. Against his better judgment, Clint agreed to cast Brennan in a significant supporting role. The problem started before filming began. During pre-production, Brennan's agent delivered a list of demands, top billing alongside Clint, script approval, right to rewrite dialogue, costume consultation. David Valdez, Clint's producer, brought the list to Clint's office. Clint read it without expression. "Tell him no," Clint said. "He's threatening to walk," Valdez said. "Then he can walk. We'll find someone else." Brennan's agent backed down. But one demand remained. His trailer had to be the same size as Clint's, or larger. Clint's response was simple: "Give him whatever size trailer he wants. I don't care." What Brennan didn't understand was that Clint rarely used his trailer. He preferred being on set with crew. The trailer was just a place to change clothes. Production moved to Idaho in early June. The base camp was established in a remote area with trailers, equipment trucks, and temporary facilities for the 80-person crew. As specified in his contract, Brennan's trailer was delivered, a massive custom unit that was actually slightly larger than Clint's modest setup. The cast and crew noticed immediately. Brennan made sure they noticed, parking his trailer in the most prominent position and making a show of its amenities. He gave interviews to visiting press about his essential workspace and how important it was for him to have the right environment for his process. Clint said nothing. He showed up early every morning, worked through the day with the crew, and stayed late reviewing the next day's shots. He never mentioned Brennan's trailer. He never had to. His work spoke for itself. But then Brennan started showing up late. The first day of shooting his scenes, Brennan was scheduled for a 6 a.m. call time to catch the morning light in a crucial sequence. At 6 a.m., Clint and the crew were ready. The cameras were positioned, the extras were in place, the light was perfect. Brennan's trailer door stayed closed. At 6:15, the first assistant director knocked on Brennan's door. No answer. At 6:30, he knocked again. Finally, at 6:45, Brennan emerged, clearly hungover, wearing sunglasses despite the early hour. "I need another hour," Brennan announced to the first AD. "I wasn't ready. My process requires proper preparation." The AD looked at Clint, who was standing nearby. Clint's expression didn't change. He simply nodded and said, "We'll shoot around him. Move to scene 47. The entire crew scrambled to reposition for a different sequence, losing the perfect morning light for Brennan's scene. It cost them 3 hours of shooting time and required bringing in different actors and equipment. But Clint never raised his voice, never showed frustration. He just adjusted and kept working. Brennan finally appeared at 8 a.m., still wearing sunglasses, and seemed genuinely surprised that they'd started without him. He went to Clint, apparently expecting an apology for not waiting. "We're on scene 47 now," Clint said calmly. "You'll shoot tomorrow morning, same call time, don't be late." Brennan laughed, a condescending sound that carried across the set. "I'm never really late, Clint." I arrive when I'm ready. That's part of my process. Great actors can't be rushed. Clint looked at him for a long moment, his face unreadable. Tomorrow, 6 a.m. Be ready. Then he turned back to the camera, ending the conversation. That night, Brennan held court in his oversized trailer, entertaining visitors and drinking heavily. Several crew members reported hearing him make disparaging comments about Clint's directing style, calling it pedestrian and workmanlike compared to real auteurs he'd worked with. The next morning, Brennan was scheduled for the same 6 a.m. call time. Clint and the crew arrived early, as always. The light was again perfect for the sequence they needed to shoot. At 6 a.m., Brennan's trailer was dark and quiet. At 6:15, still nothing. The first AD knocked, no response. At 6:30, Clint walked over to Brennan's trailer himself. The crew watched as he knocked firmly on the door. After a long moment, Brennan opened it, clearly drunk or still intoxicated from the night before. He was in a bathrobe, his hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot. "What?" Brennan said, his voice slurred and aggressive. "You're late," Clint said calmly. "We're losing the light." "I'm preparing," Brennan said, gesturing vaguely with a glass that might have contained alcohol. "You wouldn't understand. You're not really an actor anymore, are you? You're just a cowboy who points cameras." The crew, watching from a distance, went absolutely silent. Nobody spoke to Clint Eastwood like that. Not on his set, not on his production, not ever. Clint's expression didn't change. "You have 15 minutes to be camera ready," he said quietly. "If you're not, we're moving on." "You'll wait for me," Brennan said, his voice getting louder. "You need me. The studio wants me. I'm the only reason anyone under 40 will see this movie. You're a relic, Eastwood. You should be grateful I agreed to work on this." Clint turned and walked back to the set. The crew exchanged nervous glances, unsure what was about to happen. 15 minutes passed. Brennan's door stayed closed. At 6:45, Clint turned to his first AD. "Mark him as a no-show. Move to scene 32. They shot around Brennan for the rest of the day, losing another crucial sequence that required the morning light. The production schedule was now significantly behind, and the budget was starting to strain from the inefficiency. That evening, Brennan finally emerged from his trailer around 4 p.m., apparently ready to shoot. He found Clint reviewing dailies with the cinematographer. "I'm ready now," Brennan announced. "Let's get my scene done." "We're wrapped for the day," Clint said without looking up from the monitor. "Then tomorrow morning, same time." "Your call sheet will be delivered to your trailer," Clint said, still focused on the footage. Brennan seemed to sense something had shifted, but his ego wouldn't let him back down. "Good. And Clint, next time, maybe you could be a little more flexible. Great performances require freedom, not factory schedules." Clint finally looked up at him. "Get some sleep, Marcus. Tomorrow's going to be a long day." The next morning, Brennan actually showed up close to on time, 6:20 a.m. instead of 6 a.m., progress in his mind. He strutted onto set, clearly expecting praise for his improvement. What he found instead was a scene he wasn't prepared for. The entire crew, all 80 people, were assembled and watching as he approached. Clint was standing in the center, arms crossed, his face as expressionless as stone. "Good morning, Marcus," Clint said, his voice carrying clearly in the mountain air. "Morning," Brennan said, suddenly uncertain. "Am I in the wrong spot? What scene are we shooting?" "We're not shooting anything," Clint said. "We need to have a conversation, and I wanted everyone here to hear it." Brennan glanced around at the crew, at the cameras that weren't being set up, at the strange stillness of what should have been a busy set. "You've been late twice," Clint continued, his voice calm but absolutely firm. "You've been drunk or hungover on my set. You've insulted my directing, my crew, and the work we're doing here. And yesterday, you told me I should be grateful you're on this film." "I was just," Brennan started, but Clint raised a hand to stop him. "I'm not finished," Clint said. "You demanded a bigger trailer than me on my own production. I gave it to you. You demanded special treatment. I gave it to you. You've cost us 2 days of shooting and thousands of dollars because you can't show up on time. I accommodated that. But yesterday, you showed up drunk and insulted people who've been working since before sunrise to make you look good on film." The mountain was completely silent except for the wind. Every crew member was watching. Brennan's face had gone pale. "So here's what's going to happen," Clint said, his voice still that same calm, quiet tone that somehow carried more authority than any yelling could. "Your scenes are being cut from the film. We're writing you out completely. Your contract is being terminated for breach of professional conduct. There's a car waiting at the bottom of the hill to take you back to Los Angeles. Your belongings from the trailer will be packed and shipped to your agent's office within 48 hours. You're fired, effective immediately." Brennan's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. He looked around desperately at the crew, perhaps expecting someone to object or defend him. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. They just watched. "But," Brennan finally managed, "you can't just fire me. My agent, the studio, they won't allow—" "I'm the producer," Clint said. "It's my production company, my money, my film. And you're done. The car is waiting." "This is insane," Brennan said, his voice rising. "Do you know who I am? Do you know what this will do to your film? You need me." "No," Clint said simply. "I need people who show up on time, sober, and treat my crew with respect. You're none of those things. The car is waiting." Brennan looked around again, desperate now. "Someone tell him he's making a mistake. Tell him he needs me." A young production assistant, a 19-year-old intern named Jenny, was standing nearby. The day before, Brennan had yelled at her for bringing him the wrong kind of coffee, reducing her to tears. Now, Clint looked directly at her. "Jenny," Clint said, "what time should everyone be on set tomorrow?" "6 a.m., Mr. Eastwood," she said quietly. "And will you be here at 6 a.m.? Clint asked. "Yes, sir," Jenny said, her voice stronger now. "Then you're more valuable to this production than Mr. Brennan has ever been," Clint said. He turned back to Brennan. "The car is waiting. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Brennan stood there for another long moment, perhaps waiting for someone to intervene, for this to turn out to be some kind of lesson or test. But nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the wind and the distant rumble of the car engine waiting to take him away. Finally, Brennan turned and walked toward his trailer. 10 minutes later, he emerged with a single bag, walked past the assembled crew without making eye contact, and got into the car. Nobody watched him leave. They'd already turned back to their work, preparing for the first actual shot of the day. "All right," Clint said to his first AD, "let's make up for lost time. Scene 32, first positions." And just like that, production resumed as if Marcus Brennan had never been there. The story of what happened on the Pale Rider set spread through Hollywood within days. Brennan's agent tried to spin it as a creative disagreement, but too many crew members had been present. The truth came out. Brennan had been fired for being drunk, late, and disrespectful. The impact on Brennan's career was immediate and devastating. Studios started pulling out of projects he was attached to. Directors who had been interested in working with him suddenly weren't returning calls. Within 6 months, Brennan went from a rising star to someone who couldn't get a meeting. The unofficial blacklist wasn't because of Clint's influence. Clint never badmouthed Brennan publicly. It was because the story demonstrated something every producer and director feared. If an actor couldn't show basic professionalism on a Clint Eastwood set, where the expectations were clear and the environment was known to be fair, then that actor was a liability no one wanted to risk. Pale Rider went on to be a massive success, earning over $40 million on a $6.9 million budget. Critics praised it as Eastwood's best Western since Unforgiven. The scenes that would have featured Brennan were rewritten and redistributed among other actors, and nobody missed his presence. Years later, in an interview, Clint was asked about the incident. His response was characteristically brief. "Everybody on a film set has a job to do. If you can't do your job, you can't be there. It doesn't matter what your name is or what's on your resume. Show up on time, sober, and treat people with respect. That's the baseline." The story became legendary in Hollywood, not because Clint had been cruel or vindictive, but because he'd done exactly what he said he would do. No drama, no second chances, just clear expectations and immediate consequences when those expectations weren't met. Today, the story is still told as an example of leadership and standards. The oversized trailer became a symbol, a reminder that trailer size and recent success mean nothing without basic professionalism. Jenny, the 19-year-old PA Clint defended, became a successful line producer. She credits that moment with teaching her what real leadership looks like. Marcus Brennan found work in smaller productions but never regained his trajectory. He tells people Clint blacklisted him. The Crew tells a different story. It was about showing up drunk, insulting harder workers, and learning nobody is irreplaceable. If this story of accountability and standards moved you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to remember that talent without professionalism is worthless, and respect isn't something you demand. It's something you earn. Have you ever seen someone face real consequences for unprofessional behavior? Share your story in the comments. Ring that bell for more stories about legends who understood that how you treat people matters more than your name above the title.